And we're out bright and early. Another beautiful Wednesday morning is upon us. Welcome to The Breakfast Show, The Morning Brief. I'm Kaido Kikili here in Lagos.
Well, it's wonderful to be here again. Good morning and welcome to The Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. Well, for me, it's a Harsh Truth Wednesday. Where we are today is a product of the choices that we made in the past, the cumulative choices. So we have the opportunity to make better choices today so that when we reflect in the future, we'll be proud of ourselves. Welcome once again. I am Bukola Koka.
And that's why we're asking you to make that choice to stay on the program all the way through for the next 2 hours as we bring you all that's happening around the country and maybe outside the country, because right here on the Morning Brief, we try to search and track everything and bring that interesting conversation to you right here, right there in your home or in your offices. Welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. I didn't forget my name today, by the way.
I did it. For that.
I did it.
So what's happening, guys?
Well, Bukola, you have a question.
Yes, it's Harsh Truth Wednesday, so I have a question for both of you and for me.
Brace up, guys.
So, yesterday's edition got me thinking, and one of the questions that came to my mind was, if all you had left was today and you were going to be called home tomorrow, what would you do as last minute clearing the cobwebs and preparing?
Well, for me, I'm a Christian, so the most important thing is to check in on God and say, am I clear? If I'm all clear, whatever.
You'll know now if you're clear, Jeffrey.
Am I clear?
You'll know now if you're clear.
My turn. It's actually very, very difficult.
You don't have to answer.
Yeah, I don't have to. I don't even plan to.
But it's for everyone to think about. Is there someone you need to forgive? Something you need to let go of? You need to travel light. We all need to travel light. You need to be happy, because there's never going to be any other time to be happy again. You can be happy now and make every other person happy along the way. If that's what I'll be doing, forgive anyone I need to forgive, and then be happy and carry everybody along in my happiness.
Now, forgive those you remember you should forgive. There are people you might have offended, you don't even know you offended them. There are people you have offended, you thought you sorted it out, but you don't know. That's why I use the word checking on God, because you have to pray, communicate, and all of that. So, yeah, because sometimes, I don't want to quote scripture. It's not a Bible or something.
No. Mogaji, I'm going to be back asking you, maybe not on the program, later on.
But you know what, while you're at all of that, stay with us on the Morning Brief, okay?
Exactly.
Let's help you through that process. We have such a package for you, really. And we started with that tone, just to show you that we mean business. But let's walk you through what the next 1 hour, 50-something minutes have for you. Now, with food inflation at an all-time high, 35%, well, it is clear that we obviously need to bring down the price of food. But then the question is, how do we do that, and how quickly can we get the ball rolling? Well, the Minister of Agriculture says there are plans to boost food production by empowering farmers. Add to that the 42,000 metric tons of grains to be released this week. Question is, are we moving fast enough? We'll find out.
Well, there's a lot to unpack from that conversation, Kadi, and I'm looking forward to it. But on to the next one, which is the war of words between some members, between and among, I believe, members of the opposition Labour Party on social media, with accusations and counter-accusations of financial dealings and mismanagement. How will the hitherto unified obedient movement navigate these waters to provide alternative policy ideas in these challenging times?
Well, that's a big question for the Labour Party and the obedient movement. But on the lighter side, from acting in the biggest theatre stage globally to seeing a stealing performance in box office blockbusters, our celebrity guest has been described as possibly Nollywood's next godfather. Yeah. It's a heavy weight that's been placed on his shoulder, and we hear from him now. He's managing that load. You can see him later on right here on the show. Let's find out exactly, is he ready to be that villain and be characterized by that. We'll get to know right here.
Maybe we're going to be getting some villain lines on Morning Brief this morning.
And it's quite tricky, particularly in Nollywood. When you act the movies and they see you on the street, they're like, you're a wicked person.
Yeah.
That means you did really act well.
You did it well, right?
Somebody should like look at you and say, you're really a wicked guy. You should take it as a compliment, like, I did a great job. Because in movie making, somebody has to be the bad guy.
Yeah, and it's all about believability.
Yes, we can't all be good guys in the movie. It's not going to be make-believe, by the way. That's why the word make-believe is used. So, hey, if you're a villain, be a good villain. If you're a thief, steal properly. And
on the movie scene.
In the movie scene.
On the movie set, rather. That caught me for a moment. But you see, we have such a package for you on the Morning Brief. And we're taking your comment from just about, next 15 minutes or so, all through the show. So make sure to send them in if you've got questions and the rest. WhatsApp, we've got you there, and the number you'll see on your screen, plus the hashtag CTV Morning Brief. And if you've got videos, whatever is happening around you, send them our way. We are here for you. It's a hand of fellowship as we go through this ride together. So let's do this. We're back with your top stories. These are the stories we'll be shaping conversation today and the coming days. That's in a moment. Stay with us. Top stories with the, of course, top story on everyone's plate, and that is food and the attendant prices in the market. We had the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Mr. Abubakar Kyari, saying that as part of plans to boost food production, rice farmers will be incentivized beginning next week. Well, during the sectoral debate on agriculture in the House of Representatives, the minister attributes the scarcity of food to the menace of smuggling.
I'm not too sure if we have 5,000 tractors working, fully working in Nigeria. We need over 72,000 with what we have in terms of arable land space. We, at the level of the ministry, we have had a joint meeting between NASA, NatFund, and also Bank of Agriculture to see how we can help and incentivize our farmers by giving them access to low interest funds. I'm not too sure if we have 5,000 tractors working, fully working in Nigeria. We need over 72,000 with what we have in terms of arable land space. We, at the level of the ministry, we have had a joint meeting between NASA, NatFund, and also Bank of Agriculture to see how we can help and incentivize our farmers by giving them access to low interest funds. As for goods that are imported, illegally imported and are seized, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has directed that we should dispose of this item through direct sales to vulnerable Nigerians. As for goods that are imported, illegally imported and are seized, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has directed that we should dispose of this item through direct sales to vulnerable Nigerians. As for goods that are imported, illegally imported and are seized, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has directed that we should dispose of this item through direct sales to vulnerable Nigerians.
Well, that's the director, the Comptroller General, I should say, of the Nigeria Customs, saying that 120 trucks have actually so far been seized for smuggling, amongst other things, yesterday. Well, let's move on now. Speaking of smuggling, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has intercepted 21 food trucks heading to neighboring countries. Announcing the seizure in a statement on its X handle, the anti-graft agency said the items were heading towards N'Djamena in Chad Republic, Central African Republic, and Cameroon when operatives of the EFCC Maiduguri Zonal Command intercepted them. The seizure is coming on the heels of a rising cost of food items in Nigeria, with inflation reaching 29.9%. The cost of living reached rooftops, prompting pockets of protest and looting of food items in trucks and warehouses in some parts of the country. Now, it's not really unusual for the everyday Nigerian, this next story, but it's somewhat embarrassing for the National Assembly, as there was total blackout in the upper chamber on the first legislative day of the week, and this unusual situation compelled lawmakers to temporarily stay away from the chamber. And after nearly half an hour, the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, arrived at the chamber, apologizing for the delay in commencement.
They've assured us that before 1 o'clock, the lights will be okay. If it gets too hot, then we may have to adjourn for a while to allow them to conclude. But I think they are working on it. So I apologize for any inconvenience.
So for the first time in a while, the plenary concluded in about 2 hours with a promise to investigate that power outage. Just last week, by the way, the AEDC had named the National Assembly clerk as one of those who haven't paid their bills to the tune of 1.9 billion naira. Let's bring you more stories now. We turn our attention to the MSMEs. President Bola Tinubu directed that 200 stores be granted to 200 small business owners at the revitalized Ajire market in Ashiro, Ogun State, free of charge. And that's for a period of 1 year, in addition to a grant of 150,000 naira each. The Vice President Kashim Shettima announced this during the launch of the second micro, small and medium enterprises clinics in Abeokuta, where Governor Dapo Abiodun also announced the award of 2 billion naira conditional grant to 12,000 businesses in the state. Well, now to that story, which you may have just seen, it's on security, and the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tarid Lagbaja, has been speaking about the security situation in the country, but particularly some of the rumors making the rounds. And he says that the army is resolute in defending the nation's choice of democracy as a form of government. Addressing participants at a seminar on career planning and management organized by the Army headquarters, General Lagbaja says the Army has no plans to truncate democracy in the country.
Permit me to seize this opportunity to reiterate that the armed forces of Nigeria, particularly the Nigerian Army, has come to terms with the country's choice of democracy as a preferred system of governance. We are therefore agents of democracy and have no desire to truncate it. The Nigerian Army will continue to defend our constitution and not suspend it for whatever reason. Permits me to see
to some travel advisory next for those moving around Lagos, particularly as a result of the ongoing repair works on the third Mainland Bridge by the Federal Ministry of Works. The island Yano bound lane will be closed to vehicular traffic from 12 a.m. today. Just to be clear, that's Wednesday the 6th till 12 noon tomorrow, Thursday the 7th. So motorists plying that route are advised to use alternative routes previously provided during this period. However, the Iyano-Oworo inwards island-bound carriageway will remain open to motorists heading to the island during this period. Well, let's talk business now. The world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, Binance, says it is set to end all its Naira services in Nigeria by March the 8th. That's just in 2 days. But this follows the recent clampdown by the federal government on its exchange over the alleged involvement in several financial issues, particularly the country's lingering forex crisis, as well as terror financing. Now, a statement from the company explains that it will stop supporting Naira deposits on its platform with effect from today, March the 5th. However, Binance says despite the discontinuation notice, users of its trading platform can continue to make use of other services and products for other cryptocurrencies that are available. And outside of the country, Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo says he will not assent to an anti-gay bill until the Supreme Court rules on its constitutionality. Earlier, the Finance Ministry warned that billions of dollars in World Bank funding could be lost if it became law. Passed by MPs last week, it imposes a jail term of up to 3 years for identifying as LGBTQ+, and 5 years for promoting their activities. The Supreme Court challenger says that there was no quorum when the bill was passed, and the proposed legislation, which is called the Proper Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill, was backed by both of Ghana's main political parties. But a lawyer, Richard Deliskai, who has filed the application with the Supreme Court, says there were not enough MPs in the chamber when that vote took place. And now to sports news. Well, we have Offiong Edem becoming the first athlete to earn Nigeria a medal at the 13th African Games in Ghana, after finishing in top 3 in the women's singles table tennis event at the Accra International Conference Center. Although the official opening ceremony is set to hold in 2 days' time, that's on Friday, the table tennis event has already served off at the multi-sports event. The Spain-based star lost in the semi-final to defending champion Dina Meshref of Egypt 4-0 defeat to settle for a bronze medal, just like she did at the 2019 edition in Rabat, Morocco.
I feel super excited. I am so proud to be the first person to win a medal in this game. It's been tough, and I really put in my best. And I had this opportunity to play well because we were in World Championship, and this helped a lot. And I want to thank the Nigerian Federation for making that possible, to go to World Championship, because that served like a training tour, and that is the reason why I did very well here. The Egyptians, the reason why they are at the top, they play a lot of tournaments. We don't have that opportunity, but nevertheless, I am always very calm whenever I'm in a tournament. I don't feel stressed for anything. I just try to do my best.
Well, the Egyptians, it would seem, didn't quite let our athletes through, because Africa's highest-ranked table tennis player, Nigeria's Aaron Okwadri, clinched silver in the men's single table tennis event, also at the same competition, the African Games. Okwadri lost out to Egypt's Omar Sarr 4-3, as Egyptian reclaimed the title which he surrendered in 2019. Now, Aaron's search for his first gold medal in the men's singles continues after the loss in the final. I imagine a lot of sports lovers asking the Egyptians to let our athletes go. But hey, I'm going to welcome Jeffrey now to take a look at some of the things you are saying on social media as we walk through the top trends this morning.
Of course, there's a lot of people are saying it's 24 hours, of course, on X as well as on other social media, because the time zones they vary. And it appears some Nigerians literally they stay there to make sure that they track happenings. And our responsibility is to bring it to the fore, which is what we're going to do today. And the first we're going to talk about is this IGP ban on use of POS.
Right? Yeah.
POS machines in police station nationwide. And you've been talking. So let's hear what you're saying. This is from Rob. It says the ban on the use of POS machine in police station nationwide may be a response to concerns about potential misuse or abuse of electronic payment systems, aiming to prevent financial irregularities and maintain transparency within law enforcement agencies.
You know, I'm glad this has come up because it's given Nigerians an avenue to vent. And this one is from Kennedy_MFM, given, well, an experience, you will say. He says, let him know, that's the IGP, that the police officers now walk around with POS machines, so you see. And he gives this father saying, a friend of mine got pulled over, and after exchanging words over a long period of time, an officer went to the van only to come back with a POS machine. Says things are not the same as before.
That sounds like a line from the song. Yeah. Things are not the same. Well, this is coming from Chukwuemeka 007. Officers of the Nigerian police are found, according to him, flouting orders of the IGP. So will this one be different? Personally, I don't think so. That's his perspective.
And that's a big one, because you hear roadblocks have been dismantled.
And then you see roadblocks.
Don't harass young Nigerians.
And then they harass them.
Should I stop now or
Keep going, let's keep going.
We get the point. So it's important to make a statement this time, so Nigerians see that it's not business as usual, if indeed that's the case. Well, the next one is from Supercar Av, or Ave as the case may be. It says that's a significant decision by the IGP to ban the use of POS machines in police stations nationwide. It's crucial to stay informed about charges or changes like this, says, especially when they impact law enforcement practices. Transparency and accountability in financial transactions are essential, so measures like this can help ensure fair practices.
You know, I'm just thinking, if you take out the POS, I'm sure it's trying to avoid abuse. What then are they going to use? Cash, which cannot be tracked?
So this is something we've also heard about. They usually are checkpoints close to POS points. So even if some of these officers don't have the POS from the reports we have gotten, there's a POS point just close by, which can be directed to just leave a bad taste in the mouth. So for those bad eggs, it's important to ensure that this holds true, and we keep supporting the ones that are representing the Nigerian police force very, very well.
Bookie's agent says, not our bookie, by the way, to ban isn't the problem. Hope they will implement it. Okay, straight
and
talk.
I think the sentiment is really general about that. Frank Writer 1 says, a good one. They should also ban police from extorting money from drivers along the express road. Says it's becoming too much every day. It's become a culture, sadly, and that's what we talked about.
This is one of the major problems that affect food security in Nigeria. If you do, this one, area boys and policemen extorting money. We've seen it before, so this is not. You can go around and find out. I'm sure you have it in your area where some of these things happen. So if the IGP can stop the bad eggs from extorting money from transporters and people moving agricultural product, I'm sure it will reduce the price, because they factor in that cost. They say if I'm traveling from, say, Benin to Lagos, I will spend 10,000 naira on policemen and area boys.
Maybe that's being conservative.
I'm just being conservative. So naturally, you add that to your cost. Add inflation, add, the margins, and but when you add everything, so
that's why
the bad eggs in the police know that you're part of those responsible for food insecurity. That's just the analysis we're giving. So the IGP kudos implementation is quite key on this one.
So pending kudos on implementation, right? Well, finally, on this one, we have Oladapo Mickey 1 saying they actually need to take this seriously, because I remember when they banned police from searching people's phones. To date, some are still searching our phones without a warrant and all of it, because it's your property, right? And that's something we talked about earlier. So, another thing to take.
I think beyond calling for ban and giving orders, the police force needs some reform and re-education. The entry threshold has to be changed for policemen, because sometimes you say these things. I've been in a vehicle before. A policeman said, "I will shoot and nothing will happen." And this is me looking at them. They're like, okay, really? Anyway, let's move on now. We celebrate the good ones, but the bad ones, we're going to call you out, okay? They take the next one.
Well, this is about Binance actually being set to exit Nigeria. You may have seen that on the top stories, and a lot of people have been talking, particularly people who trade, people who have their assets and the rest in this. So let's take this one from Kelly Dunn 7070. That's an X saying they can just regulate Binance. Like there should be an amount of deposits you can make a week or daily, same for withdrawal. I do not see any sense in Binance exiting Nigeria. But it ends by saying, well, there's still ways for guys to use anything online in Nigeria, surely.
Trust Nigeria, they will find a way.
Kelly D1, I think that's the name. Kelly D1. Okay.
And this is from Joshua, hashtag MacNero1. The solution is to stop Nigeria to trade in dollars and encourage Nigerians to go to crypto trade heavily. That's the Nigerian Naira. It is the crypto to dollar that is strengthening the dollar. The dollar is massively adopted in many industries and countries. Allowing Nigerian currency to crypto trade will encourage max and foreign adoption. This will strengthen it. Okay.
Azar the Great is next on this one. Obviously, this is a big one. Says that discontinuing services that are tied to a specific currency can lead to broader implications on financial inclusion and market stability. So it's crucial for platforms to consider the impact beyond just numbers and data.
All right, so I think the last one on this one, General Hybe says, this doesn't mean Binance is going with your money. Your account is safe and your funds are intact. You can't just trade anything Naira on the platform. The government accused them of being part of the reason for Naira fall in the black market. So, okay.
I think just to say that UAE had been trending, a lot of people had seen reports claiming that the UAE had lifted, visa ban and all of that. But just to tell you that that's not true. We had one of the presidential aides saying that, well, that's not true. So just in case you've been seeing that trending, it is not true. That's been, of course, disclaimed. On a final note, 16 kilometers was trending yesterday, Jeffrey. Yeah. 16-kilometer rail for 16 years. We had the Labour Party governorship candidate, Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivar, on Channels Television saying that, well, it doesn't quite make sense. It's an absolute failure, and there's been a lot of talk around that one. Raz_Kwe says, and this is, there you go. But he's saying the truth. Because Nigeria is not used to development, many of us won't understand. But whoever builds any or renovates structure or infrastructure with government money will begin to worship them. But okay. I think I get the point there.
All right, this is coming from Centigraph, Kenneth Obiago 3. Simply the damn truth. How can a government, I want to be sure, how can a government be on a project for good 16 years when in real sense the project only needs 3 years to come into existence? Jeremy is an architect and into construction engineering, and he knows what he's talking about. So those are your perspectives.
Well, a lot of hits on this one. For other people, they're like, better late than never.
Yeah,
at least
that's what they're saying.
They can jump on the train and get access. But obviously, visa issues need to be brought to the table so we can really analyze and assess how far we've come as a nation. So those are some of the things you're saying. Remember, you can send in your questions, comments, and the rest. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief. That's how to do that, and we'll be sure to give your opinion some air, or I say air time. You can also do it on WhatsApp. You see the WhatsApp numbers on your screen. We'll take a moment now, just a few seconds, and when we return, we have a full plate, literally. We're talking about food, agriculture. It is essential to our survival. Absolutely. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of people are not having it easy right now. So are there ways for us out of this? Stay with us on the Morning Brief. We'll be right back.
not too sure if we have 5,000 tractors working, fully working in Nigeria. We need over 72,000 with what we have in terms of arable land space. We, at the level of the ministry, we have had a joint meeting between NASA, NatFund, and also Bank of Agriculture to see how we can help and incentivize our farmers by giving them access to low interest funds.
Well, African farmer Mogaji joins us on the show. He is a founder, Agribusiness NG. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on the morning brief.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I mean, you are you're a member of one of the most important sectors now in the country. So literally speaking, you're a VIP at this point.
I hope so.
You know, farmers should be seen as VIPs right now because we've seen what, rising cost of food can do to a nation, really. But listening to the Minister of Agriculture, 5,000 tractors in the country. I mean, I can't put a figure to how much VIP vehicles we have for government officials, members of the National Assembly. It's obviously more than 5,000, but for the vital, utility like tractor, we have just 5,000 as opposed to the 72,000, which it says we need to have. First, are you shocked?
Well, that data, I may not so much agree with it. I believe we have more than 5,000 tractors. There's a PwC document out there online. We actually have, I believe we have close to about 200,000. Yes, compared to what we need to, we need close to like 1 million.
Oh, so that means the minister's data in its entirety is wrong. Rather, it's what we need, 72,000, which is what he says, as against 5,000 that he says we actually have. That means he's wrong. So
I would rather say it's either PwC is wrong, which is a document that has been out for almost 5 or 6 years. It's online. You can check it out. Mechanization, or the aids of the minister are not up to date with current happenings.
No, it's where we're staying on this question.
Yeah.
This is basic data.
Yeah.
This is a no-brainer if we don't have the. So was it referring to? Without making excuses for it, was it referring to maybe the federal government purchasing, I don't know, because federal government doesn't have farm necessarily.
Maybe
is he talking about the entire country, or is talking about
what's in the charge of the ministry?
Okay.
That would be fair to say that, okay, maybe what the ministry is involved with, or with the states, so we need to put that in context. But to the whole country, we have, I think, above 200,000.
But that regardless, when you consider how much was spent on the anchor borrower scheme in the last administration, amounting to about 10 trillion naira, as has now emerged from questions answered by the CBN during the latest round of screening, isn't it shocking to you that what we have either is 72,000 or 200,000 is grossly inadequate?
It's extremely inadequate. We don't have, one of the reasons why we are where we are today with a huge food shortage is because we don't have mechanization, and especially tractors. And not just tractors. We can have 1 million tractors, but we don't use the appropriate tractors. So we focus too much on the big tractors. And what we need are small tractors, even the what you call the wheel tractors, the ones that you can handhold or sit on. What we're used to is bringing in what works in Europe, what works in US, or what the US or Europe has abandoned. That's what we embrace. But what we work here is what has been working in India, Malaysia, and Indonesia. They are the 2-wheel tractors, the small tractors, the ones that a farmer or 5 farmers can work together to use that. Don't forget, 3 acres, that tractor will do 3 acres a day. 5 farmers can come together to begin to use it, as against the other ones that you pay. This is how it works. You pay, let's say you pay now, in the next 2 weeks you're waiting for the tractor. So while the tractor is coming to you, the tractor begins to plow other people's projects to you. When that's like 2 weeks, by the time they get to you, they now plow back. That's another 2 weeks there. So if you need to ridge or arrow now, they now do another 2 weeks. So by the time your land is prepared, you've missed the timing.
So sir, my question is, where did the 10 trillion naira go? Well,
it said it went into the sector, but it didn't go into the right hands, 1. And 2, there was a lot of bogus planning to it. And the project was a good design. I always say, I like the anchor borrowers, the design, but the implementation, it did not work, because you would ask someone who has the collateral, the resources, to go and get 10,000, 20,000 farmers. People he does not know, the farmers he doesn't know. He does not know how they operate. He doesn't know anything about them. They will just gather the BVN and put resources in their care. There's no extension agent attached to them, even though on paper there is. So at the end of the day, you just find them take the money, divert the money. I have witnessed in this country, where they give the farmers the input on a, opposite, and the same supplier will park the truck, the trailer, opposite, and be buying back at half the price. And government staffs are saying, I even confronted one and I said, sir, this is happening. He said, my business is to ensure that it's distributed. My business is not to enforce that it's used.
I've been looking at some of the data, because it's quite shocking when you hear the minister saying 5,000. So I see the tractor owners at some point said that there were 7,000 tractors in Nigeria. Another World Bank agribusiness indicator for Nigeria saying they estimated 45,000 tractors in the nation. Minister says 5,000. So we know the challenge is data. Clearly, there is no unified data, because everybody's quoting different things, perhaps from where they see things. As you said, what the minister said may have been just what is in the, in the purview of the government. But you've raised some of these issues, and for a lot of Nigerians who are not farmers, they don't quite understand all of that process. All they know is you plant food, it grows, you harvest, bring to the market, and we need to purchase, at least for something bearable. But that's not the case right now. So I'd like you to speak to us about what you've seen the government doing in the past few weeks and some of the pronouncements. How much of it do you think is really going to be effective in the short run? Because a lot of people need this to happen as of yesterday. 42,000 metric tons, they said it will be released this week. Farmers like you and others will be incentivized, according to the Minister of Agriculture. Is that really going to change anything?
It's not. It's not going to change anything. It's really bad. And let me say this, we've been warning and shouting about where we will be today a few months ago. When elections were won, we raised an alarm, and let me say this, and we all need to put this in perspective. Sometime 3 months to the election, we put together the manifesto of the 4 leading candidates in agriculture. We dissected it on Twitter, saying who will feed Nigeria. The shocking, discovery was those documents were watery.
All of them.
All of them. But the ruling party had a better conversation, in it. But all of them will still have gotten us here based on that document. And so it's not something that just happened. It happened 3 months. It's on Twitter. You can be verified. Who will feed Nigeria out of the 4? And based on those manifesto, none of them. But APC had some things, together above all. So where we are, irrespective of who came in, we were supposed to be here.
So let's talk about this. I always call it diagnosis or misdiagnosis, because we need to solve this problem. Kayode had mentioned the immediate solution? Because this appears like even if they release 100,000 tons, it's not going to move a needle. We're lost as a country, as a people. So let's go back a bit before we start talking. Where did they miss it in terms of diagnosing what exactly is needed in this sector, so that we can begin to look at immediate term? I don't even want to use the short term, because short term looks like it's 20 years from now, right now, the way people are feeling. Immediate term, mid-term, and long-term.
Immediate, where they got it wrong was that diagnosis when the state of emergency on food was pronounced, where that document read that availability was not the challenge, it was affordability.
Oh boy.
That was where the challenge started from. Okay, because when you say it's affordability, meaning it's available, but it's not affordable because of earning power and maybe a high cost. And what triggered that was some people working with the presidency said because of the price of fuel that went up, especially petrol, that went up, and the cost of transportation increased, they quickly just clamped on that and said it was availability, forgetting that a chunk of the food produced comes from the north and it is diesel. So at the time they were quick to say it's affordability, the price of diesel had not reflected on the real cost, which, you know, May 29, that was announced, you know, that subsidy was removed. It would take 3 months for us to see the outcome of the new increase. So there's been a lot of data challenge. Okay, so after that, you know, happened and we came out to say, no, it's availability, not affordability. The good thing about this current administration is, you know, they quickly repackaged and said availability and affordability when the president was having a new broadcast. However, what has happened in terms of practicality, and I have said this and I'm saying it again, the handlers of Mr. President and the presidency and the vice president seem not to be in tune with the real realities, because these things has been there. You see, on the immediate, we may need to open our borders on the immediate. Agriculture is a process. If we plant today, the earliest of the basic crops, corn, tomatoes, it would take 60 days for the hybrids. Okay, and over 90% of the farmers don't use hybrids, so it will take 75 days. I said it's 60 days. You can't get anything outside 60 days. What will happen to us in 60 days? Okay, so on the immediate, we may need to be flexible with the borders and monitor and get some things in. On the intermediate, okay, is for us to begin to produce like yesterday. I have warned and I've reached out to a couple of people highly positioned around the president, you know, had some physical conversations. They don't understand this, and that's the truth. I think we need a few women to come in, because men don't understand this. They've been far from food prices go. They don't know how these things work. They don't know the price of food. They eat the food because they've been able to afford over the years. So they did not understand. I warned again. You see, we are complaining now. Wait till May. May. I am saying this. Bismarck Riwani, I think 2 weeks ago on your platform, predicted that a basket of tomato, a 50 kg, what you call the Hausa basket, will be going to 62,000 next month. Wait till May. It will be 80,000 to 120,000 on the average. This could have been averted. You know, when I began to have these meetings to say, this is going to happen, they didn't listen. By 20th of February, you know, I said, if you don't do this by 20th of February, we would have issues. So what is waiting for us May, June will be managed. It cannot be averted again.
Is it because the farmers are not planting? Because I need you to break that down further. Why would it be expensive? So people don't see that speculation.
Okay, so the farmers that can produce will use irrigation. Okay, in the north, because of the irrigation design, it's like fish pond. So the water flows in and there are canals that flow it out. So around March, when it begins to rain in April, tomatoes and basic vegetables, and what I'm talking about is strictly fresh produce, you know, those products cannot withstand heavy water. And the early rains in the north is what you call like acid rains. The leaves will just wilt off and go bad. That's why in April, the farmers in the north start planting rice on the irrigated plots. So in the south, mostly southwest now, that is where you have the rains starting, but most of the southwest states have not positioned to leverage irrigation or leverage the river basins to be able to produce. So there's going to be a drop in production in the north. You now have tomatoes coming from North Central. And don't forget, North Central now has a lot of insecurity challenges. You know, so Southwest and South generally have early rains, but they've not leveraged on irrigation.
Clarify this for us. They've not leveraged on irrigation, not because we don't have the ideal weather condition to grow tomatoes.
We have the ideal. See, before, it was old syllabus that you could not grow tomatoes. There
in the south?
Yes, there are varieties of tomatoes that grow very well in the south during the rainy season. And, you know, take for instance, when it comes to like September, August, September now, tomatoes will be coming in from Burkina Faso, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, into Nigeria and Ghana. When it comes to Nigeria, it's the most expensive, but it's what sells out the first. So they will first buy all those tomatoes because of varieties. They plant hybrids. So if it comes all the way by road from Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, and it sells out fast, and it can do well here, why can't we plant it? Which is where the interventions of government needs to focus on hybrids, because they can weather shelf life, long travel. So we are not taking advantage of our low-hanging fruits. If you don't know it, you don't know it.
So let's talk about the government had declared a state of emergency on the sector. What was that really all about? Given all of this explanation you're giving, it's like, I'm sorry, but I'm worried. Did they really understand what they said, or is the same challenge of misdiagnosis? So if you were to say, let's still keep this food security declaration of food state of emergency on maybe food or the agricultural sector or food and all of that, what exactly should they be doing?
The honest truth, because we've gotten to a point where we can't manage the truth again. If not, May, June will be a huge crisis. Is the presidency needs to check the aids advising on agriculture. All the documents and pronouncements since inception has been faulty. It's not in tune with reality, and it's the aides and the advisors that bring this document to them. The president and vice president, they're not agric experts. So there are some people feeding this document to them. So if they feed the right information, we'll be able to plan. So bottom line is, it's wrong information. And I will say this, we have a lot, and I keep saying it, we have a lot of people who are exposed, but they are not experienced. Experience is, you are done it. Which of the aides can say, I have spent 60 straight days or 90 straight days on a farm?
Speaking of which, sir, you talked about how the Southwest is not leveraging on the potential of growing tomatoes in the South. And you've also mentioned that the anchor borrower scheme wasn't such a bad idea, but it was the management. So going forward, even at the subnational level, how can they begin to work with the right farmers such that we can grow crops and not continue to wait for the North to push down crops from tomatoes, rice? How can we begin to leverage? Imota, for instance, is a huge rice capacity producing mill. So how can we leverage on the potential that is available?
First thing first is that we must tell ourselves the truth, okay? We celebrate mediocrity too much in the country when it comes to food security. You mentioned Imota. The 1 million bags of rice that was celebrated and made a lot of rounds was not sufficient for a mortar rice mill to run a year operations. And yet the whole country was celebrating 1 million bags, which is just 100,000 metric tons. So if we had focused on how can we get Imota and other mills to run a 2-year processing without any break, then we'll be food secure. How do we ensure that the paddy is readily available? And most of the paddy we process also is not from Nigeria, it's from Niger. So when we began, when there was this crisis, Niger, Ku, and other West African regions, food security, many people didn't know that our paddies come from there. So when everybody was analyzing, we knew that we're going to face this. We're not having rice today because there's been a strain on the relationship. Now, we focus too much on federal. It's the states that should take responsibility. Okay, and I think the federal government needs to, use the carrot and stick with the state governments now to say, you take facilities from us, we bail you out. You must be able to produce, give us 3 things you will produce. If not, the loans we have with you, we'll recall it. The money you are getting from us, you must deliver on this with timelines. The states are not doing what they need to do. And before we say, oh, the northern states are doing a lot, the northern states are not doing a lot. The farmers are engaged in activity, not productivity. They are still getting the same yields they were getting 15, 20 years ago. Instead of giving them inputs and seeds that would make them get like 4 times more yield, 5 times more yield. So the farmers in the north are stagnant. And also the northern climate needs to be processing foods now, not bringing water to the south. When they bring tomato, it is water. Because when you process the thing, it's about 30% of concentrate and 70% of water. They bring sweet potato is water. So they transport water instead of transport finished products.
You're saying they transport water with the produce itself?
Yes, with the produce itself. So if they begin to add value, because they can do commercial,
so they can move more.
They can move more. Okay, and you see, food security goes beyond production or processing. NAFDAC, the government needs to tell NAFDAC that NAFDAC needs to revisit their policies. What do I mean? Now, NAFDAC has a policy around tomato processing. The same seeds that we've been using that has been used in Europe for about 40, 50 years is the same variety that is being used in the north now, but there are policies around because we copy and paste. So for UK now, or Europe, will now say, oh, our tomato does not have brisk level, that's sugar level. Okay, but that same tomato they processed and were selling globally for about 30, 40 years. Now NAFDAC will now use that outdated policy to say our paste does not meet global standard. Meanwhile, we're in a dire situation now. We need to begin to consume what we produce.
I need to quickly put this in. You made very, very vital points, and I bet that they're listening right now, because that's the point of this conversation. So the Customs Controller General said that 120 trucks had been stopped from smuggling food. I'm not even finished my question.
The laughter says a lot already.
120 trucks stopped. EFCC yesterday also said that, stopped some trucks that were smuggling food outside. I mean, you say that we should open up, at least for now, so we can salvage the situation. But then we see the authorities saying people are even smuggling foods out, and he says that the rising cost is partly due to that, not entirely due to that. You may want to speak to that, because I know that your laugh is very pregnant.
Fela sang a song, "Teacher, don't teach me nonsense." This trade, moving food every Wednesday and Thursday in all the northern states, they bring things in. Go to Adija Jamari. some of us are well-traveled and we've invested our lives in this country, preparing for this time like this. Most of the fish we eat around the country comes from Mali, Burkina Faso. Go every Sunday in Adija Jamari in Jigawa State. You will see trailers of fish. That's where they buy and distribute. You eat a lot of Mali fish. Okay? And when they are going back, they take things with them. When they bring the cattle, the goat, the rams we eat is not from Nigeria. They take something back. Now, over the years, I've seen Chief Audu Ogbe when he was Minister of Agriculture. We're not planning for the future. That's a challenge. And why am I saying we're not planning for the future? If West Africa needs grains from us, if they need our corn, if they need beans, if they need, why don't we plan production for them? Until we plan production for West Africa, Nigeria will not be food secure because they will keep taking it. It's a business that has spanned over 4 decades. So why are we saying, so the food they need us. So if we are crying Forex, why don't we just legalize it and ensure that our farmers use good varieties that will give high productivity so that these people will be able to feed also. We need each other. And let me break it down. The US, I've said it many times on this platform, the US is one of the largest, is the 5th largest producer of tomatoes. But they specialize in tomatoes they use to do ketchups and paste. But they are one of the biggest importers of tomatoes also. They import fresh tomato. We need to focus on the country. China is one of the largest producers of maize, yet they are one of the biggest importers of maize from America also. They are one of the largest producers of pork, yet they are one of the largest importers of pork. Our people handling food security in Nigeria needs to understand how these things work. So Mexico takes soya bean and corn from America and give America tomatoes. What is Nigeria taking from the West African states?
Okay, there are a couple of questions. In fact, there are loads of it, because this is, we're talking food security here. Maybe one of the questions, let me ask the early one. The gari we eat, what happens to it? Why is it expensive?
And they relate it to the dollar.
Relative to the dollar as well.
What have they got to do with each other?
So, because the layman always says that.
Yeah.
Yes, so everybody, it's the information we give to them that they work with. Don't forget, majority are not educated. So when you just say it's dollar, and so their logistics affect dollar. Fuel, diesel. Many of them run diesel. Don't forget, there's no stable power in the rural community. So because there's no stable power, they will say dollar. Okay? But all the inputs we use, apart from the stem, is dollarized. All the agrochemicals we use is imported based on dollar. When I say all, I mean all. Let any company tell me today, challenge me to say, oh, we are producing 100% of the insecticides, herbicides in the country. There's just one that just sprang up, and it belongs to an Indian, and we thank God for them bailing us out. But 99% of them imports. They now reconstitute and repackage in the country, so it's dollar. So when they grow the cassava, it's dollar. Seed, it's only the seed that is local. When they are to farm, they labor a chunk, especially in Southwest and North Central, a chunk of the labor comes from Benin, and they convert their money to dollar. Oh. Yes. A chunk of the labor that takes care of cassava, mostly Southwest, Kogi and Co, they come from Togo and Benin Republic, and they will convert the money to CFA when they are going. We don't have an understanding of how these things affect the ecosystem. And guess what? Even the gari you are talking about, they bring it from Ghana to Nigeria now.
When you talk about the labor, you mean the manual peeling of the cassava?
The people that weed, that make the molds. We can mechanize this process, but we are not paying attention to mechanization. So if you are bringing labor from Benin that will convert your Naira to CFA, and many of them are not even coming into the country again. That's why cost of cassava and co is going high. Because before they will come and just like with Japa, go to work, make money, send back home. They come in February, return December for their annual festival. But when they are going now and they convert Naira to CFA, it has no value. So many of them are not coming in again. So mechanization. That's what makes our Gari expensive.
And the authorities don't know this.
I'm not sure.
What can they do, though? It's a question.
Good.
You need the labor in any case. Is this a call for people to now go into farming? I've heard people saying they're now getting tires, and they're planting something in their homes. They're getting buckets, planting yam, and I'm sure you've seen some of those videos. So really, you need labor and you need these things. So what can governments do?
Just a useful digression. All the guys planting in plastics and co, it's good. It's mainly for their mental health. So with the pressure in the country now, when you begin to water tomato, expectation is there. It helps you with your mental health, and people don't know that. Yeah, because your expectation is high. You're looking at it. There's progress. There's hope, and when you have it's for mental health. It can't sustain you, but it's good. Okay, but the thing is, government is focusing too much, putting unnecessary pressure on themselves. The private sector is eager to come on the platform. We need to turn it to 20% government, policies, security, and bring in the FMCGs.
So before we let you go, so why, permit me to use the word, maybe grandstanding. The president has said, look, we're not going to export. We're not going to import anything. In fact, we should be net exporter. Where is that confidence coming from? Because we need to solve this problem, like I already said, like we've all said yesterday. You mentioned flexibility around the border. What else do we need to do? Maybe 2 more things. They are listening because we're looking for solution here.
So let me say this. Again, it comes to whoever is feeding the president with data. This is the same error the last administration made. They were working with wrong data. When they increased, they blocked access to forex for maize. The price of maize went from 45,000 to 145, grew to 210,000 per ton, and eventually January 610,000.
Whoa!
Now, that's why you don't have eggs. So data, it's the people. The president doesn't know this. It's based on the data they give to them that they use to make the pronouncement. I said it, that we will import. When we got grains from Ukraine, is that not importation? It's the how. I'm trained on U.S. foreign policy and food security. Okay, so we understand that these foods must come in as aid now. Okay, but government is back end, some things are happening. We need to bring these things in. Either we lobby to bring it in as aids and government is not directly involved, but it's still importation across the border into Nigeria.
In any case, allow us to do our small farming for our mental health. Maybe that is our learning ground. They will now expand. But I think it's also important to state that people who want to invest can invest in farming.
Yes.
Even though you won't get the yields immediately, it might not change what is happening now, but 6 months, 1 year, it might begin to change things.
3 months.
3 months, right?
3 months,
not even as
4 months.
Right.
It has its issues, okay, but 3 months, 4 months. Government just needs to be talking about, we have 4 million metric tons gap. Take, for instance, rice. For us to be rice sufficient, we need 1 million hectares. From the 1 million hectares, 5 billion will be going to seeds. We need to talk to people like that, but there's hope.
Mr. Mogaji.
In 3 to 6 months, we can solve this thing, and then reduce it.
You know the beauty about this conversation?
If we have the right people in the right offices, 3 to 6 months, this thing will be a thing of the past.
And I think we'll leave it on that cheery note. We can go on and on because it's food. And it's very important. But
it's just something to smile and
absolutely.
And you don't just want to be angry, just be smiling.
So please keep your mental health. Africanfarmer, Mogaji, food security expert. Thank you so much for your time. By the way, someone sent this in, a message gifted saying the solution to food security is not rocket science. We have a grain reserve according to the federal government. Why not inject some quantity into the market at the subsidized rate and see how prices will crash? There's more to it than granting interviews. Gifted says, but you know how much we consume consume? Do you know how much we have in reserve? But hey, thank you so much, Gifted, for that. We'll go to break now. Thank you very much, by the way, Mr. Mogaji, one more time. We'll go to break now. When we return, we'll turn our attention to the Labour Party. You may have seen what's trending online. But then, aside that, is the major role of opposition in Nigeria. They need to provide alternative ideas. We'll turn our attention to that in a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's now switch gear to the issue of politics, and this time in focus is the Labour Party. We're being joined in the program from our Abuja studio by the chief spokesperson of the Obidati organization, Mr. Yunus Atanko. Mr. Atanko, thank you so much for coming on the program. All right, if you can hear me, Mr. Atanko, let's begin from what's been happening online about this issue of the back and forth over this issue of donation, spendings, and all of the intrigues that have been going on within the obedient movement as well as the Labour Party about how money has been changing hands. Maybe you bring that a bit of clarification to those who are not quite familiar with what's going on, because we understand and we know that the presidential candidate at some point come out to say, this is how much we received, this is how much was spent, this is the balance. We've also had ESCO of the party, the Labour Party, also talk about the issue of, allegations against Julius Abure. So there's been a lot of issue around the finances of the Labour Party. Help us make sense of what is going on.
All right. We seem to have a difficulty with that audio. Not to worry. We'll get that through to you. But it's important to have this discussion, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, particularly for members of a party or the obedient movement. Yesterday was not a pretty sight, particularly on social media, with the accusations and counter-accusations making the round. So it's important to set the record straight, ask the people in the know, and put these issues out there for clarification, further questioning, and the rest.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, finances is an important part of the electioneering process. It's not a popular thing in Nigeria, though, for political parties to publicly give accounts of how much money came in, how much money was spent, and all of that. It's a big deal in the US. In fact, it could be a big infraction and affect your ambition generally. No matter how rich you are, whether you're Donald Trump or anyone, tracking your finances is quite important, because they expect that people donate their monies to you to pursue your ambition. So this is why this conversation is quite important, and we've seen all of this revelation. But it's worrying to see that there's a lot about the finances of the Labour Party and all of this. The presidential candidate has come out to say, this is how much money came in and how much money I personally donated. That's talking about him, and how much money came from abroad and locally and all of that. And there has been this counter accusation, oh, this person used the money for that. I've had conversation, I think I interviewed, is it the National Treasurer now? And the National Publicity Secretary one time. It was a big argument as to how the money is moved and who is signing what. And then we saw what happened with the Labour Party national chairman, all of that issue. So it's important we have this conversation to know exactly what is going on with the finances of one of the lead opposition parties in the country. Since they've come out to say this is the money that went through our political party, that's commendable. But now it has to be scrutinized to make sure that the right things were done, which is perhaps why the leadership of the party from the presidential level had to come out to say this is what came in, this is what was spent. Bukola. Well,
sometimes when accusations are flying around, it's important and instructive to ask who is making those accusations, what their interests are, and what their objectives are. Some of the accusations that are flying around are certainly unwholesome about how some members of the party are purchasing properties, and have all of a sudden become wealthy, following participation and good showing, by the way, of the Labour Party in the last presidential election. But what's the real objective at the end of the day? And this is certainly not the time for the Labour Party to be silent on these allegations. It is the time for them to come out and provide clarification, such that the Labour Party can retain the strength that it has come up with, particularly following the good showing that it made during the 2023 presidential election, having come out from a place where it was deemed the beautiful bride, of the ambition of failed politicians to becoming a political party to reckon with. So it's very, very important to have this conversation. It's important for the Labour Party to speak at this point in time, guys.
Well, one of the top trends right now is Abure, and that's Julius Abure trending at this point. Just goes to show how important this is. Of course, Peter Obi is also a top trend, and that's why we're following up with this. And I think during this whole back and forth, the term or the expression, we know they give shishi, yet again came up, and you see a lot of people taking on different angles to this one. We'll reconnect with Mr. Yunusa Tanko in our Abuja studio. I know he's itching to speak on these issues. By the way, we had also reached out to some of the people who are accusing or being accused on this one to get their opinions aired. But as of now, that hasn't happened. So we'll have that conversation on the Labour Party. Add to that, what alternative ideas the party has or may have about the situation, the economy, particularly in the country. We've seen Mr. Peter Obi speaking about that, about particularly the donation from Ukraine and other things. So what are the ideas that we can all consider to help our country? Those are the issues we'll be taking a look at.
Yeah, God, you said something, and we must build on that, which is when you're accused, as long as the issue is not sub judice, it's not in court, it's important you come and defend yourself. It is quite important. So when invitations are handed out to you, nobody's trying to indict you already, because the law is very clear. You're not guilty until proven by a competent court in the land. So it's quite important. And when I look at the numbers, over 500 million donated from citizens in 4 banks. Peter Obi himself donated, that's from his own account, about 800 million. We had the spendings has to do with campaign materials, media and radio broadcasting, election promotion materials, polling unit agents, bank charges, administrative charges, legal expenses, campaign and election activities, and they had a balance of 19 million. But we've also had accusations against Julius Abure in terms of some of the acquisitions he's had in terms of property, in terms of money and all of that, which are all allegations, which we expect that all of this should be cleared by Yunusa Tanko as this counter accusation now is within the party trying to say, look, we need to be clear on how our money was spent on this particular campaign, so that going forward, this toga of, we will make sure that we account for every money is truly accounted for. But we'll take this quick break now. When we come back, we'll switch gears. Join us again. Welcome back. We'll now switch gears back to our Abuja studios. We needed to ensure that Mr. Yunusa Tanko, the chief spokesperson of Obidati organization, can you hear me? Mr. Tanko, thank you so much for your understanding and patience. Maybe you can pick up from the question I asked. Let's start from there.
Can you hear me? Please, the volume.
Mr. Tanko, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
hear you. Good morning. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I was saying earlier on, thank you for having me. Before I delve into the issue of the finances of the Labour Party, the gentleman in your studio was speaking about food security. Permit me to just lean on the position of our principal, Peter Gregory Obi, His Excellency, who said that Nigeria has no business with poverty, especially hunger anyway, considering the fact that the northern part of this country control 744,286 square kilometers landmass, which compared to Ukraine would have 603,000 square kilometers, and yet, shamefully to us, unfortunately, Ukraine is donating grins to us as a people. When you go further, you look at the comparison within Netherlands and Niger State. Niger State on its own can feed Nigeria and feed Africa, as it were. Niger State has 76,000 plus arable land, and then Netherlands has just 33,000. And yet, Netherlands was able to produce and export agricultural product worth about $125 billion. And if Niger State can just manage to do like 5% of what Netherlands had done, we could have been raking home of 6 billion naira. Furthermore, when you look at the combination of Taraba State and Borno State combined together, where we have serious issue of insecurity, you have combined square landmass of 125,000 square meters. And then compared to Belgium, which has just 30,000 square miles and have been able to do a lot of work in terms of agriculture with raking in $20 billion, we as a people, considering Borno State and Taraba State, which is 4 times of this particular Belgium, we could have been able to take care of the insecurity situation. So the whole issue here is about engaging our youth in productive activities. Of course, when you engage the youth in the local government, in the world level and everywhere, they can be able to sustain themselves and make a lot of gain and defend the interests of themselves and their integrity and the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. These are some of the statistics in which was read out by His Excellency Peter Obi at yesterday's, when he was bestowed upon the honor of being the Politician of the Year. Please, it is good that sometimes we look at some of these particular facts and concentrate as a people to work together and take this country out of the wood. It seems to me this particular government is actually not prepared for governance as it were. But if they need any consultative support and in terms of words and all, they should take the word of the oppositions and use it as a way. It's a free consultancy. It can help them in developing and taking Nigeria out of the wood. Now, taking that out of the context, let me delve into the question about the about the issue of the finances of the Labour Party. His Excellency Peter Gregory Obi is a man of integrity. In every aspect of his life, he has never been found wanting as regard to issue of misappropriation. And anywhere he goes to, he tries to maintain high integrity standards. And that is why at a point in time, he was the member and head of chairman of board of directors of so many banks. And yet, he was able to excel without a dotted line being accusing him of misappropriation. And that is the reason why, when he looked at the issues being raised within the Labour Party, he asked for independent auditing to audit the Labour Party account so that those who are accusing can be able to go to sleep if their facts are correct, and those who are accused can be able to stand clean and say, look, what we are being accused of is actually not true. Now, the Labour Party on its own had also been able to do, under the leadership of Barrister Julius Abure, had done an internal auditing. The internal auditing has been presented to the National Working Committee members, and they've been able to scrutinize it and give credence whether these particular accounts are according to what is specified by law and within the threshold of any political party. Don't also forget that the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, does an independent auditing of every political party. Remember, I have been a chairman, so I know. So this auditing will come from the Independent Electoral Commission. They will inspect all your books, all your accounting books, and make sure that they are within the ambience of law as being prescribed. So that way, whether you accuse somebody or you not accuse anybody, INEC still have the prerequisites by law to publish, and that particular auditing will be published by INEC for every Nigerian to see. Now, so you see, there are two auditing that will be conducted. As far as I am concerned, I am so glad that some of these things are coming out, because these are not new things. But the new thing here is that the Labour Party has been able to present itself for public scrutiny, unlike other political parties who hide their own problems under the carpet.
Well,
that gives every Nigerian an access to look into our finances and say, hey, these guys, are you doing good or you're not doing good?
So the angle of this conversation, Mr. Tanko, if you can hear me, so I'm sure you've been following what's going on social media. So there is the conversation around the campaign, Mr. Peter Obi, and the finance for the campaign. But this conversation also has an angle to it. And that is the fact that of late, we've heard accusations targeted at members of either the Obidati organization, either the campaign or obedient movement. Some of them being accused of collecting monies to organize, at that time, Twitter spaces. Some of them being accused of pocketing funds. And it's been said that it goes against the "we know they collect shishi" mantra, which was made popular by the obedient movement. So are you aware of these accusations as a major member of this movement? And what is being done to ensure that whoever is found culpable or whoever is fingered in all of this is shown as, or at least is, you ensure that you stand by that mantra of "we know they give shishi" and adequately either punish or whatever action is deemed fit by the organization?
Okay, Kayode, the truth about this is that immediately all of this accusation and counter accusation came up, a lot of issues sparked up. It is true that some other organizations, there are support groups, different support groups who decided to support the aspiration of His Excellency Peter Obi. And I remember with nostalgia when His Excellency was giving his account of what he donated and what anybody donated to him in that account was made published. And you saw my humble self with honorable member, Comrade Aisha Yusuf, who was reading out the statements of the account bit by bit, and it was published. Now, His Excellency said that if there are any other donations that were made to any other organizations or groups, probably the public can make us to know this particular organization, and they should tell us where XYZ is being kept, or can they account for the monies that was being donated by this organization. So a lot of organizations need to do proper accounting to those who donated any money to them to support this particular aspiration. Obviously, that particular donation had nothing to do with the Labour Party, had nothing to do with His Excellency, his own campaign financing. They are independent donation to different groups. I give you an example. There are groups who feel that they need to reach out to persons in the northern part of the country. And so those who are on ground and those who are donating will give this donation, and then these particular persons or group will go out to perform these particular duties. There are a particular group, Doctors for Peter Obi, for example, articulate and well transparent set of people who went around the federation trying to shower in support for His Excellency Peter Gregory Obi by conducting free medical services in and out of every part of this country. They donate money to their groups within their own sector. And those particular groups are the ones that will account for whatever it is that was given to them by the donors. The donors cut across the whole world, individuals who have families at home, say, look, we need to support this particular cause. If X amount of money is being given to this particular group, please account for that particular. It only show credibility, so that nobody will think that probably they are donating to ghosts, or somebody will use that X amount of money for his own personal benefit. That is exactly what I think is going on in the social media. So each group is asking those that they donate X amount of money for to account for that particular money. That has nothing to do with the Labour Party or His Excellency. But of course, His Excellency, as the father of all, has asked that everybody that collected any X amount of money should please account for it for those who have donated, so that to have clearance and acceptability in the process.
Well, it's exemplary, Mr. Tanko, that the Labour Party is giving an account of its stewardship as far as the prosecution of the 2023 presidential election is concerned. But, you know, one can't ignore the fact that the Labour Party is still divided, with some still claiming leadership positions. And that leaves those of us in the media with a dilemma as to how to couch their designations, fractional spokesperson, fractional chairman. This is from the breakdown, donations from citizens, 575 million. Now, because of this, some are saying that some of these donations were made to the national leadership of the party to field candidates, positions where there had been aspirants, genuine aspirants before, and then they were jettisoned for candidates that were paid for. And this is really what is causing division in the party. I'd like you to speak to this allegation.
As I said earlier on, the Labour Party is accountable to any money that is being given to it in its own account, which the chairman gracefully has also done. We must give credit to those who have been able to account for XYZ, money given to them to perform. There is no truth as regard to issue of leadership. Let me clear this. The issue of leadership, there has never been any case as regard to issue of leadership in the Labour Party. And here, I think the media has to help us. If you sit down in your house right now, when you Google to find out who is the chairman of the Labour Party, who is the national secretary of the Labour Party, who is the organizing secretary of the Labour Party, you will see it on your website. It is very clear. It is Barrister Julius Abure, not minding any of the accusation or counter-accusation. And the secretary of the party is Malam Ibrahim Farouk Umar. There's no ambiguity. Now, the issue of court cases are different. The issue of court cases is basically on the issue of forgery. It's not about leadership. And then there's an injunction, quoted and unquoted, that the chairman should maybe vacate the seat while an investigation will be conducted. Now, the truth about it is that the party has an internal mechanism. And if you accuse the party leadership, we can only bring it up within the party, and the party will form up an independent, internal investigation, what the chairman has also gracefully done, and even had a reconciliation committee put in place. Now, also, the issue of whether there was a court injunction against the chairman, that may be put to rest in a few days probably, because the issue was also taken to an appeal court to look at the statutory of that particular injunction that was given. That is the only issue. So the press should help us clearly to establish that there is no any issue of leadership in the Labour Party. And if there were any issues whatsoever as regard to the leadership, the National Working Committee will sit down and say, look, this we will do, and announce to the whole world. It's a transparent process. And I think kudos should be given to us as a collective entity who are trying to do the right thing. Look, there's no gainsaying that we are aware there are those who want to see the Labour Party coming down. But to us, this will only make us stronger as a group. We are team players. When there are issues within us, we'll deal with it. Nobody, no single individual is above the law within the Labour Party. Nobody. If you are found wanting, the party will deal with you according to the provision of the constitution of the party and then the provisions of the law. There's no doubt about it. Because this gives credibility to who we are as a people and what we represent in the society. So we cannot say that there are no problems. Yes, there are problems, but we will deal with it within the provision. So many committees have been put in place. And I am glad that some people are not shying away from accusing each other if things are done wrongly. That is part of the credibility. And I challenge you to ask any political party who have been able to do this at the moment now. Most of the political parties have kept all of their problems inside, and then some may even say that that is the best way to go. But I disagree, because it only did not give the credibility and openness to the system. But we in the Labour Party, we are open to the public for criticism so that we can be able to move forward.
All right, Mr. Tanko, we must thank you so much for coming. We wish we had more time because it was supposed to be a two-part conversation, but we're glad you took the second part early, perhaps envisaging what would have happened. But we must thank you for coming on the program. But the conversation we'll keep it coming and keep it going, and we'll be glad that whenever we call on the Labour Party, you'll be there to answer these questions. Mr. Yunus Tanko is the chief spokesperson of the Obidati organization. Thank you so much for coming to bring your perspective on the program.
Thank you very much, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Absolutely. So let's switch gears now. We'll take this quick break. When we come back, we'll talk to the guy who we're asking the question, is he the next godfather of the Nollywood industry, or is he going to play that villain role for a long time, or switch gears? We'll find out after this break. Join us again.
Now, what would we do without our beloved Nollywood, telling amazing stories, repositioning Nigeria? And in 2024, we've recorded our first big hit on the box office, 1 billion naira. And we have one of the icons of the industry joining us on the program today, someone that reminds me of the big bosses of those days, talking about Alex Osifo Omiagbo, who's still doing us proud, by the way, and you know, some of the big villains of those days. But let's not go down memory lane. Let's stay in the present as we welcome Olarotimi Fakunle. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so honored to have you on the program.
Thank you.
First of all, before we go into the villain part, you know, which is what we're looking forward to talking about, you have an interesting story. We've read it, but I'd like you to share it with us, your journey to becoming what you are now, the godfather of the big boss in the films. Share it with us.
So that's a big call, calling him the godfather. I don't know, but let's leave that. So, I mean, I started off my career in the theater, and I started quite early. I started as far back 1996. So my first professional performance was 1997. And then when Rad Bonke came to Nigeria in 99, we were the set of people that performed for him at National Stadium. I mean, God rest his soul, he's late now. Yeah. So it's a journey of dance, music, and the total theater for some of us who started at the time. We went through some very tough, rigorous times.
Those tough times.
But
share them with us.
You know, so there were times, I didn't get the support I needed from my folks, especially my mom, who wanted me to be a banker or something, that business administration line. And my dad, who was a military man then, never supported it. So it was like trying to hustle and then trying to go for a rehearsal. So it was a bit difficult trying to look for money when nobody was giving you money, but you have to make do. You have to do certain underground street jobs, get this done so I can have money to go for rehearsal. I'm going to bless you that you go late, because they will still insult you there. And one particular one, which I will never forget, was the day that I didn't have money to go for rehearsal. And, you know, it was towards the Rad Bonke performance period, and it was that performance week, which is very crucial for theater, you know. And I got up at about 4:30. We were staying at the Joe Barracks then, and I trekked all the way to National Theater, NCSC. By the time I got there, of course, I was late and tired. And my boss, Mr. Thompson, just grabbed the closest thing to me, which was a stool, and flung it in my direction. I wish I could vent, but I know that in the theater, the Holy Spirit, that the director is a God, you kind of.
Did you dodge it?
Well, he hit me here, but I was not, he didn't hit me where he aimed it at. So and then, so I still rehearsed. And at the end of the rehearsal, I just said, why you come late? I said, Uncle Vic, you know how they come late now? I said, look, he said, that's not my business. In the theater, you beg, you borrow, or steal. And
is that your origin story?
So Jack gave me money to go back home the next day. But I'm glad that, you know, those years of hard work and everything eventually paid off. But it wasn't such a smooth ride at all.
So someone will wonder, what kept that focus? Why did you just tell yourself, it's either this or nothing else?
So immediately Gangs of Lagos came out. A lot of people started asking me questions when they found out that I've been doing it for quite a while. And I used to say, I'm not a motivational speaker. I don't know what works for people. But the only thing I told myself was, this is something I've given my entire life to. How do I stop it now Where do I start from? What do I want to learn now? What do I want to do? I mean, it's never too late to start learning something new, but this is something I believe that eventually will pay off in terms of the drive that I had and in terms of the goal and vision that I see, you know. And I mean, I've seen a lot of people being successful at it. I started reading about theater quite early, so I know that it's not easy here, but I need to have perseverance. I mean, we can work. And then I've been fortunate to also travel out of the country to perform for free. I know people paying money. I slept from some of the best hotels. So I kept telling myself, it can only get better, I can only get better. But in that it can only get better, it can only get better. It got worse at some point. But I think it was the fact that I've gotten this far. You either die there, keep trying, and keep dying there. One day it will pay off.
And it has paid off.
Well, it's interesting listening to you, and I see how you now embody the character and deliver it. But it's also good to see that some of your influences in life, some part of your backstory, they'll naturally help you, you know, enact those characters or really interpret them. So your father in the military?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not really hard for you to be that military person. You also said that you had to go through some very tough things. But speak to us about, I wouldn't say your big break, really, because you've been doing theater, and I know I don't want to say there's this battle between theater and film. Like, you know, we do the hard work on theater. Yeah, it is live. We have to really, we sometimes they say we overact, but you have to be larger than life because it's on stage and you need to have that presence.
No second takes.
You know, it's no second takes, no editing, and the rest. So I don't want to say big break because I know theater might come for me. Like, we're also big as well. But when you look at both, you know, mediums or media in this case, how would you describe doing movies now and all of the attention that has come with it?
So for me, the truth is you can't compare both mediums. Because I had big breaks in the theater as well. Probably, you know, because of the way theater is in Nigeria, nobody actually talks about it the way it is. But so far, so good. I think if my records are straight, and I think they are, I am the only actor who's performed in four different Muslim festival plays. Yeah. And they are big plays, and they are big roles as well. But you know, everybody can sit down in their homes and watch TV, on our phones and watch film. So I think that is what makes it totally different from theater. But for me, the big break in film was, I would say, Gang of Lagos, any day, any time. Even though, yes, I've been involved in certain productions before then. I was on Teen Cell, I was in a couple of television productions. I was in Riona, Ajoche, Blood of Enoge, quite a number of them. But it was Gang of Lagos. And how did that come to be? I was in the hospital then. My wife was pregnant, and it was post-COVID. No work. In fact, our theater suffered and passed because freaking hell.
True.
All the shows that you have been billed to perform got cancelled. So the savings you think you want to save money to buy something, to do something, you have to put your hands in there, and before you know, the money don't reduce. So I just got a call because my wife was on bed rest from my friend then, who was not my manager, Demi. Says, Olarazimi, can you come and meet Jade? I said, who is that? He said, she's the director. I said, where? Island. Me, I'm a mainland boy. I'm thinking, on this morning that is left now, you know, she do some one or two things. But something just said go. So I told my wife, I'm going to the place. She said, why? Go. I said, I now got to CMS, there was traffic.
Oh dear.
They now called me. That the director will leave. I said, tell your director she cannot go anywhere. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Well, the good thing is this one didn't throw a stool at you.
No. So she waited, and I got there. Said, do you need some time? I said, no. So she gave me the script. And then I looked at it. Said, do you want to go to a room? I said, no. I was looking at the time. I just wanted to finish, head back to the hospital, see my wife, and then head back home to take care of the kids. So I said, I'm ready. He said, eh? I said, so I did this. He said, can you do it in Yoruba? So I did it. He said, okay, go to the next scene. I looked at it, less than 5 minutes. I said, I'm ready, ma. I did it. She now said, okay, wait. She now took me to that particular scene that had to do with, that I did with Macaroni's character at the slaughter slab. And said I should look at it, and it was pretty long. So I just said, okay, now I need some time. So I went into the room, and I came out, I did it, and she said, okay, thank you. I said, thank you too. I left. I was just in a hurry to get back. I didn't want to get into traffic, because I get anxiety issues when I sit there in traffic. So,
particularly Lagos traffic.
Oh, God. I thought I went, I didn't hear anything. Because apparently, they had casted for all the car-grabbing gangs of Lagos, including Kazim.
Oh.
Yeah. They had casted for character, but the director kept on saying that, I've not found my Kazim, I've not found my Kazim, I've not found this character. So that's how David said, I know this guy, he will give his life for this thing. So that's how. I just called my manager 2 days after. I said, I've gone to see this Ojado. I've not heard anything, but I know that I've done my best, and I know that I left enough impression on her that if I don't get to work with her on this project, she will remember me for the rest of her life. If she has to do anything again, she would call me. And then my good friend and sister Lala, who wasn't in the country then, just called me the next day and said, Lala, and Daddy said he came to see her. There was no hint as if I got the role, I didn't get the role. I was like, what is going on?
Go straight to the point, let me know, right?
And then about a week later, I just got the call that, you got the role. I didn't even ask how much. I just said, thank you. And that was it. Wow. That was it. That was how Gangs of Lagos happened.
And you killed it.
You nailed it.
And he killed it and nailed it. I can't forget how that whole thing started. The first statement was, Isaleko is a jungle, something. Yeah. I remember that line. Because
so you slip into the role effortlessly, and that's why I want you to speak to, whether it's Gangs of Lagos or Slum King. So what in it makes you such an easy villain? Is it something in your background, or it's naturally in the DNA of thespians to be able to switch from either as a protagonist or the antagonist?
First and foremost, an artist is a student of the society, and one of the greatest skills that an actor must possess is observation. You must be able to observe the environment all the time. I sit here, look at all of you. If you give me like 5 minutes, I probably will be able to mimic how he speaks, how you speak, and how you speak. I was sitting out there watching you. I'm like, okay, see this guy, see this jacket, see how they do it from jail. So you must be able to observe. And apart from that, you also need to take the pain to learn about the character. For Kazim and Gangs of Lagos, I actually went to the market. I learned how to slaughter goats and how to sell different parts of goats, and how to dissect, how to spread. I sold meat in the market, and some people insulted me. And I was, at some point, I got angry. But the best thing was teaching me, like all these Ibadan people, they don't have chill. How many insults do you think I've received in my life telling this thing? You came here. I didn't tell them what I was coming to do. I didn't tell them why I was doing it.
Right.
I didn't say anything.
They thought you were an apprentice?
Yeah.
For real?
And then people will come to the market and say, this guy, I don't want to see on TV. I say, man, no go chop. That was also my response. I said, so because you see me, I said, well, say what, I'm not shooting film. I should sit down and go hungry. Nobody knew until Gang of Lagos came out. So I went through that process I'll go to the market in the morning. When I'm done, I'll rush to stunt training for Gang of Lagos. I must report back to the market because I have to give account of what I saw before I left. And so it was all of that for me. So it wasn't as if it was an easy sleeping. No, I put in the work.
Wow, and you paid off.
Wow, that was incredible. I know you had mentioned your wife in passing, like you're big on family. We're almost totally out of time. So maybe you tell us about how you manage all of this and the support base you're getting from your wife and your children.
So my wife is the biggest support that I have. I call her powerhouse. Because most of half the time I'm not at home. Especially since Gangs of Lagos came out.
There you go.
And of course, I've got beautiful kids. My daughter is an amazing actor as well, Jasmine. She's
Which of them is Jasmine?
Johnson. The one on the far right.
Okay, on the far right.
That's your first, right?
That's my first, yeah. That's my second. That's my cutie. And also, I mean, for me, family is everything because it gives me the peace when I'm out there. It's stressful. Like I shot about 5 a.m. this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you're here
this morning. So I'm going back to set from here. But you know, when you have a family that you can think of when things are going wrong, so you can just say, baby, for more, this, she just calm down. That is not your house. Eat whatever food you can find, or go and buy food. Don't complain about anything. You know, so for me, family is everything.
I just want to. It's beautiful to hear you talk about family. I want to ask you first if your children they've seen you play the villain. Did you get to and did he come to hug you like, no, I'm not going to hug daddy. Daddy did that in the movies, on the one hand, and on the other, speak to us about, you know, the roles you play, villain. I don't know if you played lover boy as well. Okay, you know the question.
For me, I think an actor has to be multifaceted to be able to deliver. Of course, the kids, they have their resentment against certain roles that I've played, particularly the scene, the slaughter slap scene in Gangs of Lagos, especially this, my daughter, the first one.
Was she scared? Like
she wasn't, because she acts as well.
Right.
No, but she just like, I didn't like that thing. People will see you outside now and they'll think that is how you are. And the truth is, the amount of insult I got when Gangs of Lagos came out, but it's a part of the workshop.
You know, people can't separate the real person from the character. You're a wicked man. You this man.
Oh God! And then as regards lover boy, acting now, nothing transcends beyond the scene.
Yeah,
not even the screen. Beyond
how
the
does
scene.
Madame handle it?
She knows. She knows that nothing doesn't cross that line. And yes, I've done other things. I mean, I've got a couple of great jobs coming out. You guys should just chill. I'm not a killer.
Just give us an insight.
I'm
Villain,
not a
lover boy.
Father, very good.
But a father that wanted to take revenge. It sounds like that.
Well, it depends on how you play.
I know you don't want to give us too much, but we're looking forward to it, absolutely.
But so I was worried as well. I was playing villain. But so I spoke with one of my very good big brother, took my barrel, and he said to me, don't let anybody deceive you. You played so well, you will get more of it. And so I went back to look at my mentors, Denzel, Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson probably plays a villain in all the movies, but he plays them differently.
Well, it's a villain.
Yeah, it is.
Lem has become the father, but most times it's always the father that is trying to save the day.
But it doesn't matter. So I mean, he plays them in different ways. So the onus is on the actor to be able to deliver. It doesn't matter what role. It doesn't matter if it's the same type of role.
Yeah.
But
so get ready to deliver one of those villain lines. But talk to us about, you know, it's curious that you're encouraging your daughter, and from your own personal story. Do we have any more time?
I don't think so. Maybe just does this.
Okay, let's just have the villain line.
I'm all like me. Àti kékeré ni mo ti máa ń ṣàyìn àtẹ̀rànkò. Mo lè máa ṣàyìn tí ilẹ̀ fi máa mọ́ kò ní sú mi kò ní rẹ̀ mí. Wàá wá ikú bá ẹ̀wọ̀n ní orí àfi tí mo bá ṣetán láti pa ẹ́ lókù.
I'm good here. I'm okay here. What? Whoa. That switch was dangerous.
Quick. Okay. From 0 to 1,000.
We have to close this room now. Let's go.
We have to go, Kola.
All right. It's been an amazing 2-hour journey, and we urge you to join us again. Let's do this together again, same time tomorrow, when we'll bring you another surprise on our moving theme show, The Morning Brief on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Koka.
I must thank, of course, Alari Smith for coming on the program. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your company. We look forward to seeing you more of those roles, by the way. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
And I'm Kayode Kikiolu. Yeah, there are villains in life, but hey, let's be superheroes too. Have a great day. Goodbye.